Hello and welcome back, everyone, as we are jumping into battle in our Rocket Rabbit Randomizer for Omega Ruby. And in this episode, we'll be continuing on our trek to Verdant Turn by battling Breeder Lydia. You know what? That's a good idea. So, Cloud, what do you think are the farming ethics when it comes to the coffee business in Southern Asia?
Well, first of all, when you're talking business ethics, you must pay specific attention to the respective cultures in the areas because location. Now, coffee typically grows in the Tropic of Cancer versus the Tropic of Capricorn or the Tropic of Punch, which we are more familiar to in North America. In the event when the climate is insufficient, you got to be careful not to fall prey to the temptation to use sometimes steroid-ridden fertilizers in order to overcome the obstacles that are inherent in the climate in which you grow your coffee.
Alright, but how does this impact the ethics of coffee farming in this area?
The ethics of coffee farming are going to determine the morality of how they grow their coffee. If they try to roid it up and cheat in the contest, they may end up having people piss vinegar. But if they do it ethically, they can make a very delicious coffee product. However, all nations should pay attention to what is known to as, air quote, comparative advantage, air quote, which says that some peoples in locations around the world will always be able to produce some goods at a lower cost.
Specifically due to geographic and temperate zones, right?
Precisely, yes.
I don't know. Honestly, no, I do most certainly agree that the geography, temperate, and culture of an area will drastically affect the implied ethics of a community, that specifically a farming community. However, I'm not entirely sure how drastic these variables affect the either positively or negatively the differences in ethics between disparate communities.
For disparate communities?
Well, I'm using disparate in a incorrect method here. I meant to say different communities.
Different communities, got you. Well, I would answer that by saying that it's one thing to screw up a pound of coffee. It's another thing to screw up a ton of coffee. You got to make sure that your processes are proven to repeat thousands of times over.
Does the quantity of coffee really matter? Given that we are attempting to discuss ethics differences as opposing to quality differences.
So, ethics will always apply to business practices because you can look at anything, especially a Pokemon battle, through the lens of morality. That's where ethics comes in. Is what you're doing actually right? And then you leads into other philosophical questions like what is righteousness? And again, we must look to the cultures in which we operate business because the Asians might have a different answer to these questions than us Americans because we have different lifestyles and upbringings and so forth. Furthermore, I lost my train of thought.
Don't worry, we're almost done, at least with this particular battle. But again, a majority of this episode, guys, is going to be filler because we are attempting to get to Verdant Turf, but I wanted to show off all of the grinding trainers that we'll be grinding on later.
Mr. Cloud, what you just said was one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. Everyone, even that Jinx, and even the Poliwhirl, is now dumber because they were within earshot of that explanation. I award you no experience, and may God have mercy on your soul. I'm sorry, may Arceus have mercy on your soul.
I'm not actually all that big a fan of Billy Madison, honestly. It's a decent movie, certainly, but it's not a movie that I have all that much attachment to.
Well, I happen to have a VHS copy of Billy Madison. How the hell did I get my hands on is what I'm wondering. I had to be no older than 12 at the time, put it that way. Anyway, and I was trying to get Happy Gilmore. But the reason why I was trying to get Happy Gilmore, any Adam Sandler, is because of the stupid shit going by other names compilation of audio skits that Adam Sandler did with what's his name and other comedians, which was very funny. And my cousin introduced me to it. So you see, the location in which we gain exposure to Adam Sandler will determine how hard you laugh when he says, ah, ha, 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 shut up.
Hey, we got to show off camouflage, which is actually the unique, the relatively unique move for Kecleon.
Bye, Lugia.
Bye, Lugia.
We will see you later, maybe.
Probably.
Probably. Well, you gotta figure, if we have, 700 Pokemon encounters, that means that we see everybody like 1 in 1/12 of a time.
And this is why experience share is broken, because I don't even have to bring out my other Pokemon at all in order to gain a sizable amount of experiences, specifically against legendary Pokemon.
High five.
Hey, Apom. I actually like the Apom line. I can never remember how the fuck to pronounce it, if it's Apom or Ipom, but I like the Ipom line. Mostly because Ipom himself is cute, and Ambipom is actually somewhat competitively viable. The big problem that the Ambipom actually has is that he's a pure normal type, meaning he doesn't get super effective damage on anything.
It's hard. It's hard to commentate on what the native characteristics of the Pokemon are in the context of a video that is showing Pokemon that do not share the characteristics we're talking about.
Right.
On the same point, I always thought that Apom was kind of mediocre, and that's why they gave him a Megvolution.
No, they didn't give him a Megvolution, just a rather iffy normal evolution.
Gotcha.
And yes, Apom has always been mediocre, but Apom's been mediocre simply because he was never meant to be one of the more defined archetypes that Pokemon has between Tank, Cleric, and Sweeper. Apom, to be perfectly honest, because of his he actually got freeze on Tri-Attack. Nice. Apom has got the issue of having although has relatively good has got relatively good BST for what it is, just doesn't actually compete with fully evolved Pokemon.
Of course, yes.
And that's actually a big problem that a lot of the basic Pokemon from Generation 2 actually suffer from. They're actually really good Pokemon. It's just that they can't do what they want to do in comparison to later Pokemon or fully evolved Pokemon.
Right, and it just defeats the purpose. Why are you trying to use vanilla cards in my meta Yu-Gi-Oh match?
Oh look, this Regigigas would actually be a threat if it had attack moves, because Regigigas' only real problem is the fact that it's absolutely hindered by its usual ability of slow start. But in this run, Regigigas actually has Storm Drain, which is an amazing ability.
So I was going to say that Regigigas was something you would find in the middle of the woods. Now it sounds like he's something that you would find in downtown, where have you? Probably Wales, let's say. Wales is a low-lying town in another country. Let's have a storm run over the concrete that is actually a Pokemon that's charging tolls for people trying to pass by during a rainstorm. And he makes good money during that. We wish him luck.
You're familiar with the Gen 3 Golems, right?
Of course. Yeah, they're the guys that you had to know Braille in order to find.
Yeah. Well, Regigigas is the continuation of those. You need classically to get him in Generation 4, you need to transfer up Reggie Ice, Reggie Rock, and Reggie Steel into your game, and then there was a specific spot on the Gen 4 map in Sinnoh where Regigigas sat. If you brought all three of the Reggies to him, he would awaken up, and then you would have the ability to actually capture him. I actually really like Regigigas, but I will admit that I've never actually done the quest to unlock him. Specifically because I've never actually owned a Gen 4 copy, like at all. The only time I ever played Gen 4 is when I was doing my Heart Gold Soul Silver race against an acquaintance of mine, and that wasn't in Sinnoh. That was the Gen 2 remakes.
My ancestors. Fear me.
This is probably the...
Do you remember the episode where Jigglypuff fought against Gengar?
No, I do not remember that episode now.
That was a really fucked up episode, dude.
That was the cutest encounter we've had yet. Igglybuff versus what's his name?
Purugly.
Purugly.
I mean, you can call it by her actual nickname of Catwoman if you want.
Only that I must admit, I'm still slowly learning the new Pokemon names.
Okay. Hey, well, we have Rock Smash. Yay! We got to help this couple.
Philosophical queries aside, we must proceed this video game. We helped.
Booyah! We got the Agronite, which is the Mega Stone for Aggron. Yes, Aggron got a Mega Evolution starting from this game. It is a pure Steel type, which makes it significantly better than Aggron's normal typing of Rock Steel.
Yep, because then you can use... It will survive ground attacks, and it will survive fighting attacks.
Mm-hmm. Well, it won't survive them well, but it will actually survive them.
Because 2 is less than 4.
Yep.
You got another ball.
Yep. So now, Rustboro is actually selling repeat balls in its market. The other big thing that we're attempting to go back to Rustboro for, hey Gibble, is we're attempting to turn in the quest to deliver Steven's letter, which originally was how you actually got the experience share.
Alright, I'm going to take a crack at this. Gibble is a ground and fighting type.
Close. Ground Dragon.
Fuck.
That's right, you're not familiar at all with Gen 4. Gibble is the base stage of the Garchomp line, and it will go Gibble, Gabite, and Garchomp. And Garchomp, if you're familiar with anything post-Generation 3, you should recognize that Garchomp is factually one of the most broken Pokemon that Game Freak ever put out.
Sweet.
Extremely fast, relatively bulky, and extremely high attack power. The only thing that can really take down Garchomp specifically in Generation 4 is Frostlass, and that's mostly because Frostlass gets the ability to have really high special attack and ice attacks.
It's a good combination, especially in a game where the types are coherent with what you read about in books or other objective material. I was going to say that I've kind of made a little game out of trying to extrapolate what the types are based on what color they are, because that Ghibli was blue on top and orange on the bottom. So I thought, well, blue is kind of like Machop pink, so let's say fighting type on a ground orange belly. Fuck.
Well, no, actually, that's actually a really good method of doing type correlation, and it only starts to falter once we get into the later gens, which we will continue on with the next part.